All right, it's about that time. The locally owned and operated Domino's Pizza B-movie Banter. What do we need to say to make this more enticing? Andy Serkis brought Gollum to life in The Lord of the Rings. He played Kong in the Jack Black King Kong, was cast in the new Star Wars Episode 7 and the second Avengers movie, and reprises his role as Caesar in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which hits theaters nationwide in less than 48 hours on July 11th. But before we unleash Serkis, remember that you can win a medium two-topping pizza from Domino's by simply sending Serkis' response to what he's most proud of to bmovie@hbci.com. Do that and we'll pick one lucky winner to have some free za delivered right to their doorstep. Maybe even do so to watch Pop Punk Zombies in this interview all over again. They deliver till 3 a.m., so why not? But enough out of me. Let's hear from the biggest get in big movie history, the one and only Andy Serkis. Rise of the Planet of the Apes was a fantastic film for which your portrayal of Caesar was the catalyst. At the conclusion of that film, the virus was in its initial stages of spreading worldwide. With that said, what can folks expect to see in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in terms of where the story picks up when it hits theaters on the 11th?
Well, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes starts 10 years later on, and obviously the pandemic has spread, and we are led to believe that the human population has been completely decimated. I mean, there are pockets of survivors, whereas Caesar has led as a young kind of revolutionary leader, taken them to the woods outside of San Francisco, and started to create a kind of utopian society. And we pick up the story 10 years later, and we see him as this rather egalitarian leader who is teaching the apes to communicate, and he is evolving, of course, because he was the subject of that drug that has enhanced his intelligence and his evolution. Mm-hmm. And many of the other apes have had that drug too. So he's trying to, now we're into the second generation of apes almost, so they are being taught tenets of belief. We see a fairly evolved society, and into that a band of human beings, some of the survivors, enter into their world, and from that moment there is a potential for the escalation of violence, which may lead to war. So that's where we pick up the story.
Mm-hmm. Now, Rise features Caesar's struggle to find his true identity. What conflict does your character face in Dawn?
I think in many ways the struggle for Caesar's identity continues throughout the movie, although the movie's themes are really, and Caesar embodies this, is about empathy. Because it's his sort of blessing and his curse in the sense that he has known the human world. He was brought up, his father in a sense was a human, and then of course he's had to engage with his own kind, but he stands somewhere between those two worlds. And actually when the conflict starts to erupt, there is a potential moment where peace can be had because of a relationship that he has with a human being, the one Malcolm, played by a human, but I'm talking nonsense here, Malcolm, who is played by Jason Clarke, and he and Malcolm form this unsaid alliance, which is based on trust, which is the only, and which is potentially has light at the end of the tunnel for a peaceful solution. But of course, the reaction by the apes to that relationship is almost is cataclysmic, and finally the window of opportunity closes up as a result.
Mm-hmm. Something I've noticed through other interviews you've done is your idea about authorship of a role. Do you feel that between the Lord of the Rings trilogy till now, the film community are offering more recognition for the brilliant portrayals you've offered in the digital makeup of performance capture?
I think the perception has certainly shifted within the film community and also the world at large. I mean, performance capture is now, for all intents and purposes, since I began working using the technology about 14, 15 years old. It was used in video games before that, but really the notion of taking an actor's performance that is driving, that is an actor on set playing the role, and that role being the emotional backbone, not only the acting choices, but the physicality, the facial expressions, the audio, all captured in one hit. So basically, performance capture technology is another means of filming an actor. The post-production processes have evolved also. The technology, the artistry, the animators' facial pipeline in the way that they interpret the performance and take the authored role on set that is cut by the director and put into the cut, and before the visual effects shots come into play. But the work that the Weta have done on this movie is extraordinary, and it's taken. Technologically, it's moved on to another level, but I think there is now an understanding. Young actors who are coming into the profession see performance capture as just another way of acting. I think if there is any sort of reticence or worry, it lies with the sort of more mature acting population who just don't wish to or can't really get their heads around the notion of not being on screen, but apart from that, it's used in so many movies now, and I've just had what I love about it as a technology is the fact that it is this great liberating tool which enables you to not be tied down by your own physicality, by your own size or shape or colour or sex, and it means that you can actually play anything.
Mm-hmm. You noted in the past that finding Gollum's voice had to be generated from a real place and not simply conjured. You said that voice was born from one of your cats coughing up a hairball. But beyond the voice, what was the most difficult aspect of conveying Gollum's soul to the viewers? And when you reprised the role for Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, was it a challenge to avoid becoming a caricature of those performances?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, I absolutely felt that, having played Gollum once and really searched for the character and based it on the notion of addiction and the power of the ring being something that, there but for the grace of God go I. It affects everybody in different ways, but I really wanted Gollum to feel that there was something tangible, there was something real about his pain, that it comes from something that could possibly be, recognised. And actually, yeah, I mean, you're right. 10 years later on, inhabiting the role again, there was, for the briefest of moments, I suddenly felt myself doing a terrible impersonation of a character I'd once played 10 years beforehand, and it took a little while. I mean, once I started acting opposite Martin Freeman and was, transported into the younger Gollum, then it went away once we started rehearsing. But the lead up to shooting, I was certainly sort of internally plagued by. I'd heard so many people's impersonations, and I'd been asked to do Gollum as an answer phone message for many people that it seemed to, it had become hollow in some way, and that I had to find him all over again in a way.
Mm-hmm. With the Lord of the Rings, King Kong, the Apes movies, they all have a very dramatic intensity as well as action. From a performance standpoint, do you really have to switch gears to do a comedy like Burke and Hare, or do you approach all roles in the same way, just adjust for dynamic?
Yeah, I've never drawn a distinction between, doing a live action role or a performance captured role, and whatever role I take on, it's all about playing the character, building the role, internally, psychologically, finding the emotional center of a character, finding a physicality for a character. I mean, obviously, you're not just existing in your own vacuum. You're responding to the tone of the piece, to the writing, to the director. But it always begins and ends with making sure that the character is real.
Mm-hmm. Having worked with Simon Pegg and Tim Curry on Burke and Hare, there must be a humorous story you can share with us, because I'm going to go out on a limb and guess you guys had some fun on that set.
We had enormous fun. Let me think. I mean, Simon, I can't even think where to begin. There were so many days where it was almost impossible to keep a straight face with Simon. He's so funny. He's such a great actor. But I think there was one scene where we had to stuff a body into a barrel, and it was this incredibly heavy corpse, and it really wasn't not the easiest thing to do, and Simon and I were holding back guffaws by the second.
Filming has begun for Star Wars Episode 7. First off, how thrilled were you to be cast in the franchise, and what can you share with us about the next installment without getting yourself into a little spot of bother there?
I can't, as you probably know, without going any further, I can't say a single word about Star Wars, much as I would love to. But I am thrilled to be working on it, of course, and to be working with JJ, who is just a great director. director, fantastic, so passionate about the project, and I know he's going to create something extraordinary. So, sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. You've worked with a lot of talented actors and filmmakers, but I was particularly excited to see that Gary Oldman was cast in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Can you give us some insight on working with him on this project?
Gary is one of my all-time favourite actors. I mean, the performances that he's given over the years, really, he's such an inspiration to me as a young actor. I mean, he's a few years older than me, but I've watched his career and just languished in just the brilliance of his choices, and he's just amazing. He's so truthful. Every single character he plays is fused with this real imagination, but also this incredible truth. And one of the greatest sadnesses for me was on the very film that I'm working with him on was that we only had one scene together, and we were literally 200 feet apart when Caesar and the apes come down to visit the human colony, and he's miles away. And so I hope to do another movie with Gary where we get to be a little closer to each other.
Were you able to spend any time with him on set at all, or no?
Oh yeah. I mean, I did spend a lot of time with him on set, and in fact, we recently have spent a lot of time on this press tour together, and I think we're very. I feel very simpatico with him. He's such an immense force, and has been, as I say, such a huge part of my growing up as an actor.
Yeah, that was going to lead into my next question here. I'm sure you're aware of some of the comments that Mr. Oldman made during a Playboy interview recently. It has me wondering, you said you spent some time with him, gotten to know him a little bit. In that time you spent with him, albeit brief, I mean, what are the sense you get about that? Do you think people are just kind of misunderstanding what happened in that interview?
I think Gary said that he's all said everything that he has to say, really, and made his apologies.
All right, fair enough. Do you ever feel as though any of your non-performance capture roles get overlooked?
I'm always surprised when people. Funny enough, I just did an interview with NPR this morning, and I was amazed at Elvis, Elvis Mitchell's, reeled off a whole load of other performances that I've done, and I kind of. Yeah, it's funny to be reminded by them that actually people have seen these things that I've done, because for the most part, I think people do think of me as Gollum. So I don't think there's so much. I don't think they are overlooked. I just think I just perhaps feel that the enormity of a character like Gollum, the space that he operates in, and the space that he sort of rests in people's memories is pretty huge. And so I don't think it's so much they're overlooked, because people do, particularly in the UK, I suppose people come up to me and recognise me from other things. But I always think abroad that I'm always surprised when people say they've seen, Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll, or 24-hour Party People, or Topsy Turvy. I'm always amazed when people come up to me and remember me from those things.
And finally, of all you've achieved in your career to this point, what are you most proud of?
Well, that's quite a question. It's a difficult one, really. I mean, obviously I have a huge love for Gollum, because it spawned the beginning of a whole new way of working, and my experiences of working with Peter Jackson, I just think he's one of the most incredible filmmakers and the most generous and collaborative human beings, and so that does, I mean, that has left an indelible mark. I don't suppose Gollum will ever go away, and that probably.
All right. Well, hey, Andy Serkis, I really appreciate taking a few minutes to talk with us. It's been a thrill. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, you too.